Welcome back to Data Cloud Now. Today we are examining manufacturing, which means it's time to jump over to Hannover Messe in Germany, where I am delighted to be joined by Sebastian from UiPath. In relation to manufacturing, how is your team helping to add speed, increase efficiency, and drive revenues across the manufacturing value chain, Sebastian?
So Ryan, thanks first of all for having me, and yes, it's a pleasure to be with you here at Hannover, which is the heartbeat of industry. So that question, how we gonna drive value, that's it, what it is at the end of the day. So what we have is, and that is powered by now the data manufacturing cloud, we have an estate that enables companies to really have like a data model being built and automated data ingest. That's the first piece. And then once you have that, then you can run your entire workflows across the different applications. That's a huge value add. And then the last value add that the automated business intelligence brings in there is that you help companies really drive speed when it comes to something like run analysis on, let's say, maintenance workshops, or run analysis on what you have on supply chains. You infuse AI on that, and then you automate data ingest, running it across the application, and then executing your actual decisions. That's the beauty of it, and if you infuse that with AI capabilities, plus you run the automation suite, and then you layer the new products, which we call the growth products on top of that. That's the magic for manufacturing clients, where they can really execute and make that fast. And that could be upside on sales. It could be efficiency. So we see a lot of usage in supply chain areas. We see a lot of usage when it comes to sales, marketing, and these kind of functions, where you can really automate a lot and where you see the value for companies coming.
I absolutely love it, Sebastian. I would love to look at the industry as a whole. As you know, manufacturing industry is constantly changing in a hyper-competitive landscape. From a macro perspective, what trends are you noticing?
Yeah, so you're perfectly right. By now, it's like a given that they have to deal with digital transformations. What we see with clients, especially leading automation clients, that they really go deep in 5 areas. So the first area is that race to net zero. That means they are all interested to understand how automation could help them to understand their footprint, to start reporting on their footprint, and then taking automated decisions on how you can lower your footprint. And that's one promise that we have to help them there. Second footprint is, and we saw a lot of disruptions in that, is that whole notion of sourcing and supply chain. So a lot of companies basically went and they asked us, could we deal with these disruptions so that we build in automations in our supply chain right by default and right from the beginning. So you will see more and more companies that use automation right in the first place and run it all across from their sourcing all the way to their clients. That's a huge paradigm shift. Third thing is, a lot of clients said, we have still a problem on our data estate, meaning how can I get the data ingest as automated as possible? So make sure that there's no errors, make sure that you have everything without manual interference and so on. And if you think about external data sitting in all different data silos, or even think about your employees and how do they work with your data estate, that's still a problem. And we help them run that data ingest. That's number one. Number two is, if you think about having data and unlocking innovation, you need to feed that data through your entire application state. And that's the second thing in that supply chain area. And the third thing in supply chain is there's a lot of manual interactions. If you really want to get something out of supply chains, you need to automate the decision making. That's the thing. Then the next thing that we saw, especially in COVID, but that's now common state across everywhere, it's basically that fatigue in the workforce. Too much mundane work, too much transactional work. And the question that we receive from clients is, how can we offload that? How can we take that mundane work off and get our workforce more to real value-adding tasks? And that's the fourth pillar. And then the fifth pillar is an interesting one, because there's so many inclusive technologies like IoT and these kind of things. And it comes back to, how can I make the experience and how can I make that a more easy to digest adoption of inclusive technology? And that's the fifth area, because a lot of our clients need us to automate that and make the application stick. That's the fifth pillar that we see.
You know, great to have your perspective on the 5 pillars. I want to touch on something that you mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation. With the launch of the Manufacturing Data Cloud, how will this help transform the power of automation for your clients, Sebastian?
I guess if you bring that together, that like power of the two of us, it will become a power of 3, meaning clients don't have to worry about where is my data set, right? It could be powered by Snowflake, and then you have the data sets there. We can enrich it and we can run the automations on that. So don't worry about the data. The next thing becomes you want to have a pipeline of analytics, right? And that pipeline of analytics is exactly what we can jointly build. So we can feed it into the AI engines, be it like UiPath engines, Snowflake engines, or any other third-party engines, and then we can run it through this one. And this, at the end of the day, leads to something which is pretty impactful for clients, so they can get at the tip of their fingers in real time the data that they want to have. They can run forecasts on a higher accuracy. They can really do this not in a like monthly cadence, but they can do it on an evergreen refresh kind of basis. And that leads to what we had at the beginning. So faster cycle times because of faster decisions, upsell opportunities right there where you want to have them. And obviously a lot of like decisions drive right into decomplexifying things while still being like compliant and making this available for manufacturers on our both data for manufacturing cloud.
An exciting next chapter here, Sebastian. Thank you so much for your time today. I want to look towards the future a little bit. What's next for UiPath, and how can the audience learn more?
So a couple of things that would be interesting. So first thing is, obviously, I want to see about the first Lighthouse clients being together on that data cloud for manufacturing. So that's one big thing. The next thing is we're going to go and we're going to build products. So there will be automation products, which we call solution accelerators. So clients going forward can take these solution accelerators and can use them to accelerate their journey to like automation in the cloud and by like a high, fast and like high scalability. And then the last thing is, if clients are interested to do that together, we can do this and build private preview programs to together build these automations. That's basically the future.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out in the future, Sebastian. Thank you so much for your insights and joining me on Data Cloud Now.
Perfect. Ryan, was a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the moderation.
Absolutely. Looking forward to continue the conversation down the road. For the audience watching, I'm Ryan Green with Data Cloud Now. I'll see you next time.